I'm Jordan Raynor, and this is the Word Before Work.
Today we're reading from Romans chapter 13, verses 4 and 6. Here's what Paul says. For the one in authority is God's servant for your good. For the authorities are God's servants who give their full time to governing. Again, that's Paul speaking in Romans 13, verses 4 and 6. Let's face it, the brand of Christianity isn't so hot right now. By and large, non-Christians perceive us to be judgmental and unloving, increasingly retreating into subcultural enclaves to sit on Facebook and rage about the culture rather than engage the world. Hey, here's something you can do today to help solve this problem. Celebrate the good in a non-Christian's work. More than that, tell them that you see God working through them to do good in the world. That's what we've seen throughout this series on common grace. God gives good gifts of provision and vocational skill to the righteous and the unrighteous. See Matthew 5:45. And he works in this world through believers and non-believers alike, as we see in Romans 13. And so, while we will not agree with everything non-Christians do in their work, we are free to call out what they do for the common good via common grace as nothing less than God's work in the world. And that can have a profound impact on the lost, as my friend Mike Kelsey has learned. As Mike shared on the Mere Christians podcast, he was having lunch with a non-Christian friend of his who is a talented poet. Mike told his friend, quote, "Hey man, I know you don't even know what you believe, but you're doing God's work. God is using you in the ways that you craft words and write poetry and write books. You are blessing people through your gifts." When I asked Mike how his friend reacted to that, he said, quote, "He was stunned that I would say that," end quote. Because this guy assumed that he was simply a salvation project for Mike. But by taking the time to see his friend and call out the God-given goodness in his work, Mike gave his friend a new and more winsome picture of what it means to be a Christian. Throughout this series, we've been looking at responses to common grace that lead to uncommon work. Here's all 5. Number 1, common grace leaves us dumbstruck at the goodness of God. 2, common grace leads us to be good to our enemies. Number 3, common grace frees us to learn from and work with Christians and non-Christians alike. Number 4, common grace forces us to decouple our success from our faithfulness. And finally, as we've seen today, common grace allows us to celebrate the lost and change their perception of Christianity. Hey, regarding that 5th response, let me encourage you to do what Mike Kelsey did today. Find a non-Christian who God is clearly using to deliver his good gifts to the world. Encourage them to that end and watch what God can do with your response to his common grace.
Today's devotional only scratches the surface of how God's word connects to our work. If you want to go deeper, sign up for my free 20-day devotional called The Word Before Work Foundations at twbwfoundations.com. These email devotionals are designed to help you gain a rich understanding of the biblical narrative of work, how exactly your work matters for eternity, and what those truths mean for how we ought to work today. You can sign up right now, again, for free at twbwfoundations.com.